out. Well, today is known as Cost of Government Day, 60% of the way through the year, corresponding to the 60% of national income spent by the state.
Yes, the Adam Smith Institute has worked out that this year, the average British taxpayer has worked for 227 days to pay for their share of taxes and government spending. And that is the latest year on record, even when factoring in the years of pandemic spending.
Well, to tell us more is the co-founder and president of the Adam Smith Institute, Madsen Pirie. Good afternoon to you. Thanks for talking to us on GB News. That does sound like a heck of a lot of days that we're working for the government.
Of course it is, because 60 years ago, Tax Freedom Day came in mid-April. Now here we are and it comes in mid-June. And that is just the taxes that are taken from us. When you add in borrowing, we get the total cost of government. It means that 3 out of every 5 days you're working for the government rather than for yourself. And we ask, how can Britain get the growth needed to get a Goldilocks economy? Now, a Goldilocks economy means we have historic interest rates at about 5% to make it worth saving. But we want wage rises to be higher than that. And that means increased productivity. How do you increase productivity when the government is taking all of the money that might be used for investment and growth? It's a problem that really has to be solved. Government is spending too much. Now, you might say, well, it's all worthwhile because it goes on good causes. No, it doesn't. A lot of it goes on diversity officers, good heavens, dysphoria awareness courses. I could go through the civil service and cut 20% straight away. For a start, those shirking from home, I think, would be better off being unemployed at home. And that would save a huge chunk of money. And that would mean money available for growth.
Dr. Pirie, it does seem that this is a remarkable statistic when more than half of all spending in the economy comes from the government. To a layman, that might seem that sort of the people that make the money need to be more than half, and then the people who spend that money need to be less than half. It sort of doesn't really work if the unproductive bit is bigger than the productive bit.
Can you say that again?
Yes, economists reckon that the highest it should be, this is not recommended, this is the highest you can get away with without it adversely affecting everything, would be about 47%. Now, currently, we're talking over 60%. Clearly, money is being diverted into spending, which should be going on investment, on starting up new businesses, on helping businesses come up with new ideas, create new jobs, all of the things that we're supposed to be looking for Britain to do in the future, and we're not.
It is fascinating to look at how things have changed. I couldn't believe the figures that the government is spending more today than it did during the pandemic. How is that possibly correct?
Well, the answer is it isn't. Obviously, politicians are doing something wrong. Now, you've got two choices. One, get them to do something right, or two, change the politicians. I suppose there is a third, which is change the policy. We can't go on like this. There's a famous song, I think, Suspicious Minds, that has that line in it, but it's never been more true today than it is now. Something has to give. We can't go on siphoning off such a huge proportion of the national product into government programs that are not part of the market, they're not part of the decisions ordinary people make about where to work, what to buy, what to sell, what to invest in, whether to save, whether to buy a house or whatever. Oh, no, none of that is possible because the government is taking the money. Full stop.
It's 227 days now for the average British taxpayer. What do you think is a reasonable number for that to come down to, Adam?
Oh, I'm reckoned to be one of the hawks on this, and I think the reasonable number is probably about 25%. But I am what is called in the trade an outlier. And most people would say, well, maybe something like 35 would be reasonable. But 62 is by no means reasonable. That is beyond the pale, and it is crippling Britain. And if Rishi Sunak really wants to achieve growth, he's going to have to do something about it, and he's going to have to do something about it within the next 18 months, because there's an election coming, and if he doesn't do it, someone else will.
Okay. Although the Prime Minister was sounding rather bullish about his grip on the economy earlier when he was talking. But fascinating to hear from you this afternoon. Thanks very much, Adam, for talking to us on GB News. That's
Professor,
Adam Smith.
Dr. Madsen Pirie, President of the Adam Smith Institute.
I apologise.
Yes,
sorry.
Adam Smith, of course, the economist who wrote The Wealth of Nations in 1776. That's when it was published, the same year that the United States of America declared independence.